Ladies and gentlemen, and variations thereof, welcome to the Selectives Lorecast, a casual Elder Scrolls podcast. My name is Rotten Deadite, and with me today are...
I am James, also known as Aramithius.
I'm Andrew, also known as The White Guar.
And I'm Felix, also known as Banu Hana Masaishi.
And...
I totally didn't see the order in there.
Oh, well, hey, it worked out. Today we're doing Sermon 14, Lesson 14 of the 36 Lessons of Vivec. And, yeah,
I mean,
here we go.
To say what Andrew said, I guess it all worked out. So.
Yeah, this is the one where everybody gets all dizzy.
Did you bring your spears?
Yes.
Yes,
how are they accidentally shaped?
I can't detach mine. So.
Oh, it's an old song I remember from...
Yes.
Detachable spear.
There it is. Oh, good. I don't feel so old now. I just feel the normal allocation of old. So we start off just fine. Vivec lay with Molag Bal for 80 days and ate. Oh, wait, I lied. Let's deconstruct that number. First off, after the Warhammer 40k Chaos nerds calm down a little bit, 88 days is the spokes of the Great Wheel times the number of the Master.
Yes.
Oh, the number of the Master is appropriate here because we have two very powerful beings meeting.
Yes.
And the spokes of the wheel might be referencing the idea of creation, which is definitely what's going to happen here because we're about to start spitting out babies.
Or at least baby making juice.
So many babies.
So many babies, you guys.
So many babies. 400 babies.
And
well, actually unnumbered, but
babies.
It's
there's
the
a
power thirst.
There's a Weeble video about this.
Oh.
So what's next then?
Anyway,
in that time, the prince placed the warrior poet's feet back and filled them with the blood of the Daedra. In this way, Vivec's giant form remained forever harmless to good earth. Okay, so this works out.
Yes.
Because that was one of the problems that Vivec was having with her giant form being giant and just messing up the street work. All the cobblestones getting chewed up. Yep. But Molag Bal fills them with the blood of the Daedra, I should say. Doesn't really say which Daedra. And in the 36 lessons, Daedra is kind of like a catch-all term for Daedroth and Daedric princes and just demons in general, I think.
Yes. It works because I can't remember precisely which book it is that talks about the Aedra only having the power of creation, but the Daedra being unrelated to creation only have the power to change. So that's limiting the harm that Vivec can do to creation. It's also a function of changing her relation to creation. In how that works. So it's almost a stage of the realization of Chim, kind of that this is saying that yes, you are now no longer as much of a part of creation as you were before. So it's that kind of one step removed, heading towards being the observer sort of thing.
And well, yeah, and I think that's a good point, and it's also heading towards more of being not mortal, of disconnecting Vivec from the material world, which is, I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Metaphysics, especially in Judeo-Christian metaphysics, there's a lot of stuff about God not being able to exist in or not being comprehensible in the by a mortal realm.
Yes.
This is like everybody remembers Dogma, where they talk about, just hearing God's voice would cause people's heads to explode. We went through 3 atoms before we figured that one out.
Yeah, rest in power, Alan Rickman.
Yeah, and
yes.
So it's also worth mentioning. Well, I was also going to mention that just a second. I was also going to mention that I do have a note in here that reminds me to talk about this. In the New Worldling School, I mentioned the concept of chakras, and that there's a chakra point in the feet or near the feet, which is I can't remember what it's called, but it's something like the root or a ground chakra or something, and it basically binds you to the earth underneath. Felix, I don't know if you know anything more about that, but
I've never really paid too much attention to chakras,
Yeah.
but yeah, that sounds about right. Like there's mind chakra, throat chakra, the heart chakra,
mhm.
the air chakra. There's like some kind of chakra in your stomach, something in your like your your
Abdomen. There's
loins,
like 2 or 3 there. Yeah.
and then there's like I think like some kind of root chakra that has to deal with connection to the earth, and so you must sever your connection to the earth in order to achieve
The
ego
root.
death.
That's what it was. Root chakra. Thank you.
Oh,
And
that's
also
interesting. Is that actually something that's part of the chakra stuff? You were kind of saying, oh, you must sever your connection to the earth before you can achieve ego death, because that feels
like,
so chim, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So like, you know, now I'm curious. BRB, 1 second. I'm gonna just type up
Sure.
chakras, and I'm
while
sure
you do that,
something's gonna come up.
I was also going to mention that we do bring this up every once in a while, that in the Old Testament, feet are sometimes used as a euphemism for male genitalia.
Right,
By completely accidentally found out possibly why this is, in a way that is not metaphysics at all. It's actually neuroscience, which is that the pleasure center of the brain that focuses that deals dominantly with receiving input from the genital is also very, very close to the same area that receives stimulus from the feet.
That's why a foot fetish is relatively common.
Exactly, and that there's a little bit of crosstalk happening between those 2 areas, and hence you get things like foot fetishes and that prime ankle fetish.
All right.
That's just conditioning based on what you can kind of see as visible. Because just to go on a total tangent, a reenactment society that a friend was part of had a near riot on their hands when they had. They'd been in full Tudor costume, which for the ladies, of course, means bodices,
right?
And also you never show your ankles. So everyone is going around with a relatively large amount of cleavage on display. And you kind of get inured to that. But the instant one of the maids kind of sprains their ankle and gets taken to the first aid tent, and you realize that there's gonna be legs on display.
There's gonna be ankle. Yeah, you guys.
There was actually because they've been in costume for so long, their kind of reference points for kind of naughty bits or whatever had flipped.
I found it has been debunked. Oh, okay. It's apparently the neuroscience explanation's been debunked. I should mention that there's a video that I was watching recently by a woman who started an OnlyFans account for hot ankle pics, where she dressed up in not Tudor era, but like Victorian era costuming, and took I don't know, about a week's worth of photographs of her just posing fully dressed but with a little bit of ankle exposed, and she ran it for about a month, and she donated all the proceeds to charity, which was fantastic, and it did really well because judging from her PMs, apparently a lot of people got the joke, which is terrific and unusual for OnlyFans. And what was great about it is while she was doing this, she found she did a lot of research into why the Victorian era ankle fetish existed, and she was actually unable to find any primary sources for ankle fetishism in Victorian era text or fiction, for that matter. And it was just she kind of came to the conclusion, she's like, I haven't spent years doing this. I'm not a history major, but it kind of looks like the ankle thing might be some bullshit people invented about Victorian era, people to talk about how, like, Victorian era they were.
Some sort of anachronism type thing. Or
to be like, well, they were so repressed that if they saw an ankle, they'd freak out. And it's like, apparently not, But, a retro myth. Yeah, okay.
That's a good term. Thank you, Owen.
I like that.
That is a good term. I like that.
So yeah, that is a very good term. So as per usual, right? Like, of course, like type up types of chakras in Google, and the Lord doth provide. So there's the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, the solar plexus chakra, the sacral chakra, and the root chakra. They all have different colors and like elements, or not elements, but like parts of like your body
sort of elements
experience related to each of them.
Is an organ
And,
that's associated with each of them, I believe?
sorry?
Or organs, I think, that's associated with each of them?
So like, all right, the root chakra, location base of the spine in the tailbone area, color red, meaning physical identity, stability, grounding. The sacral chakra, just below the belly button and above the pubic bone, color orange, relates to sexuality, pleasure, and creativity. Solar plexus chakra, the upper abdomen and the stomach, it's yellow, has to do with self-esteem and confidence. Heart chakra, center of the chest, it's green, deals with love and compassion. Throat chakra is blue, it's communication based. Third eye chakra is purple or indigo, has to do with intuition and imagination. The crown chakra is at the very top of the head, usually violet or white, and deals with awareness and intelligence. So if they're blocked, at least according to like the idea of chakras, is like you need to unblock those, and that will help your whatever it is. So like if your throat chakra is closed off, oh well, you're probably very poor at communication, so open that up. And then my ass is like, you know, but what if we're autistic? And then the Swami like ushers me out of the room. But the general idea behind chakras is that there are various energies that relate to different parts of our lives, our existence, our being, and how we then deal with that, or like by opening them or focusing on them, that thus improves our life. So again, like the root chakra deals with what was it, like a grounding and like self-identity and stuff like that. So that kind of deals with it. As like the whole like you know, grounding yourself, attaching you to reality, that's what some people may or may not say. I remind people that while we say Hinduism as like a thing, there's various different interpretations within it.
Good point.
Think of Hinduism more as Christianity as a whole, with various different sects and interpretations, and like how people view, you know, one sect or another. So for example, there's like popular forms of Hinduism. The most popular is Vaishnavism, which views Vishnu as like the chief deity of the pantheon, whereas like Shivaism is the one that views Shiva as the absolute head of the pantheon. Like there's a bunch of different ones. So like it's a whole mess. Think of it more like different like subsects of Christianity, as opposed to, oh, it's all just one complete unified thing. They've been at this for longer than Christianity, I remind people, so there's a lot more variation within it. But with that in mind,
they had more time to write a lot more fan fiction.
But like again, I think in one of the episodes, I can't remember which one, but like I went and read like the rant about Kali that I did, and like her head of garlands is supposed to be enumerated 108, which is a very significant number in Hinduism. You know, how her feet are placed say different things. The severed head, it's not like, you know, the severed head of an enemy. The reason why the head is resting above the sword is that it represents ego death. And so like the more you actually begin to study the Hindu gods and like the concept of like Brahman and Atman, you really begin to be like, oh, so it's less about like gods and stuff and more about energies, and like that's what the purpose of the gods are there for, to kind of teach you and direct you more to like the bigger picture and the energies, and you reconnecting to them. And so that's where, like, you know, the chakras come in. It's various different energies that you must attain mastery over to become the absolute best form that you can be, which then prepares you for nirvana, or what's the other one? It's not samsara, it'll come to me. And then there's like the whole notion of yoga, and how like that actually helps you align your chakras, or just like, you know, open up your body and like become more attuned to the energies that are, you know, in the universe, because that's all it ultimately is. Like Kali is technically more of a time goddess than, say, a warrior goddess. That's what Durga is, right? And you know, lots of different like elements of the various stories, like especially less of the Ramayana, but the one with Arjuna, the Mahabharata, that's it. So like stuff like the Mahabharata and various like godly stories, and how they're presented and what they represent in many cases, it always leads back to like the greater cosmic scale of things, and that's ultimately what they want you to get and understand, right? Like sure, she was the destroyer, but why must things be destroyed so that new things can be created and in the course of time preserved? Well, who's the god of time? Well, in this case, it's Kali. Like that's the root of her name, Kala or Kala. Like it all kind of ties into those energies. There's masculine energy and feminine energy, which is why you have the lingam. And so like it's all these different things that come together, and it all relates to some element, especially with like chakras and yoga and whatnot, of improve yourself so that you can eventually achieve ego death and rejoin Atman, like become one, the one with everything kind of thing that we know we associate with Buddhism, but it's also a core concept of Hinduism. So that's kind of something that like you can always find a thread linking it. So with, again, like the throat chakra, communication, to like not only to receive communication but to bring communication, tell people how to achieve it. The crown chakra, your mind chakra, open up your mind. The crown, the ruling king, actually rejoin the greater heavenly bodies. Your root chakra keeps you standing in like self-certainty, but then also keep that in mind for why you may be too attached to this earth. Like it's all so connected, and it's actually incredibly complicated. I'm, again, not an expert. I highly encourage people to talk to non-white Western people about this, because your local white yoga guru is not going to be the same as someone who, like, say, has actually studied the history and says, okay, so sure, we know it's different now, but in the past, this is why yoga was important, kind of stuff, right? So there we go. Rant over.
Well, it's actually, you kind of brought us back around to the subject again, because ego death is kind of what this sermon ends up being about. Although you don't really know that until much later sermons. So the pomegranate banquet, which I think, is this the second time it's been called this, or was it? All right. Brought
yes,
many spirits back from the dead. It is. Okay.
It gets started in sermon. It gets called out in sermon 12.
Or 12, yeah. Brought many spirits back from the dead, so the sons and daughters of the union had much to eat besides fruit. I'm really glad we already talked about it in sermon 12, because Christ on a crutch.
Yeah.
So
never look at pomegranates the same way after reading this.
No, right?
Not at all. Although it's sort of interesting there that it's kind of implying that the spirits are the fruit
Right.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
it sounds like it's eating souls. Is what they're doing. They brought many spirits back, so they were dead. So it's like you open the Aetherius fridge and pulled out a couple old vintages, set them out.
1296.
Ooh,
Very good. Yeah.
Wow, look at this soul from the Merethic era, a fine vintage.
Yeah.
Well, it's also yet another sort of little kind of thing that I don't know if how much of this is just me, but it seems to sort of lead us to associate what Vivec's how Vivec sort of self-identifies as something much like a Daedra, and it's kind of there are little bits of that in the 36 lessons. I find that Vivec occasionally talks about things in a way that makes her seem a little bit like a Daedra, and I think it might be because that's. I speculate that this is because that's the way Daedra, or that's the way Dunmer or Chimer at this point have started thinking about gods as Daedra, because the Aedra and the rest of the higher spirits may not qualify as gods, or at the very least are not the kind of gods that they want to trust. Anyway. The Duke of Scamps came while the banquet was still underway, and Molag Bal looked on the seven penance with anger. The king of rape had become necessary and therefore troubled for the rest of time. That's such a... Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah.
Damn it, now I'm important now.
Yeah, and it's kind of the idea of if you are necessary, you have responsibilities almost.
Yep.
It's the kind of, it's that you are defined. If you are necessary, then you have then you almost have limits, and because if you must be something,
then you can't be something else.
Yeah. Then you can't. If you must be X, can't be not X.
Yeah.
And so you are. I don't know why that's equated with troubled if I'm brutally honest.
Well, he's no, I can answer that.
Responsibility,
because,
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's not just responsibility. Think about what the Daedra are, right? They represent change, and suddenly you're being like, no, hey, so here's your actual sphere, and it's like, so I can't change from that. Then what the fuck am I doing as a Daedra? Right?
And
like
that's why Jigalag went mad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, it's also interesting because it also it infers that up until this point, Molag Bal wasn't important, which I think would bother him.
Yeah.
Molag Bal strikes me as the kind of personality that doesn't take criticism.
No, not at all. Although, yeah, it depends on what you define as important, because we get established late. I can't remember whether it's already come into the sermons at this point or whether it comes in later, that he was the chief of the Dreg or Dreg or
yeah, something.
Yeah.
however you pronounce it. I go with Dreg.
Yeah, but in a different
throat.
kalpa though, so it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
James likes to
almost,
exercise his throat chakra.
Yeah.
I almost.
I usually go by like the Drew, just because it sounds funny if like anybody named Drew. But I think like someone tried to actually break down the pronunciation, and people came down to largely two versions, which is the Dref or the Droff.
Hey, we got you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yeah.
Yes,
What's up?
we've still got you.
Okay, all right. Well, my thing wasn't lighting up, so I assumed my mic wasn't.
That's
going
the
through.
man trying to keep us down,
Yeah, man.
It's
So
like Jeff Bezos doesn't like what we do here, so
Jeff Bezos doesn't know I exist.
I was gonna
No.
say, I was. I don't
dear
remember.
Amazon customer, how dare you say that? Your Amazon Echo lights up, and it's like Jeff Bezos heard that, and his feelings are hurt.
His feelings are hurt. He wants you to know he loves you. Oh.
Just kidding. Jeff Bezos
That you
doesn't have any
paid for all
feelings.
this.
Are you kidding me?
His legions and Kuatas fell into open war, but the children of Molag Bal and Vivec were too elaborate in power and form. So already we're talking about Vivec's children, and apparently there's a lot of them.
Yes. Well, that happened in Sermon 12. You can. It's so brief you can kind of skim over it, but it's the sons and daughters of Vivec and Molag Bal, number in the thousands, is there, which is one heck of a short gestation period, frankly.
Yeah, really quick, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was all that about? Like
well,
the simulacrum and the egg, like that seemed to take forever, and yet here it's like, oh, no, look, just
popping them shits out.
Baby factory. Like
it's 88 days,
now
man.
You've got 88 days, and all of a sudden things are spring up to be mature enough that they are conducting war on each other, which again ties into the whole kind of notion of Vivec as sort of a spiritual being. The idea of having, I must have been born before and all that from earlier. That the spirits will have some sort of foreknowledge that kind of come down to them in some way, shape, or form, which is trying to make mortality distinct from that in some way.
So I have another idea. Instead of like the short gestation and suddenly they're all very mature, maybe it is just like a bunch of babies fighting with each other over like baby shakers and stuff like it's like there's like this vast field of babies. You can imagine if they have real weapons or not, but there's like no, I want the tour, I want the rattle, and they're like fighting over that.
Giant babies like in Spirited Away. Big sumbitch. The Duke of Scamps therefore became a lesser thing, as did all his own children. Molag Bal said to them, "You are the sons of liars, dogs, and wolf-headed women. They've become useless to summon ever since." So this is how Scamps became Scamps.
Yes. And this is also a theme that kind of crops up. I think, is this the first instance where Vivec is trying to claim something entirely outside of her jurisdiction, so to speak? Because there are various other bits where he kind of claims certain aspects of creation that they're responsible for. But is this the first time this has happened? As in chronologically, first time within the sermons? I can't remember.
I think he kills circumstance altogether.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough.
There's so much.
All I do know is I like that to get the furry community. Well, I just shouldn't say it like furries tend to be pretty cool, but the wolf-headed women, I'm like, yeah, okay, look, we've been on the Discord servers. I remember going on DeviantArt a lot. Like, I get it, man. You don't like the furries. Like That's clearly, in my opinion, like wolf-headed woman, because like we never hear.
I think it's a little
about
deeper
them
than that.
again.
I think it's a metaphor for strong-willed women, I think is what it is.
A metaphor for Nords, actually. Okay.
If we look at the symbolism of the wolf, where does that take us? Because the wolf is associated with motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So like
primarily,
I think it's going to depend on what culture you're talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Wolves can also just be like rabid, like dangerous dogs.
Yeah, intelligent group hunting dogs, which.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's just nasty, bitchy women. I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Women that snarl at you.
Well, I pointed it out in the New Whirling School.
Shrew.
Yeah, I pointed out in the New Whirling School that of course Molag Bal would consider a wolf-headed woman as like a woman who's like strong-willed as being an insult. Sure. It's Molag Bal.
Yes,
of course he does.
Molag Bal takes everything as an insult.
That tracks absolutely.
Yeah. The Holy One returned at last. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, is it kind of a riff on, because the Scamps are assigned to Dagon? Is that some sort of? Can we link that? Can we link that to Dagon's perspectives in any way, shape, or form? Just as a random thought. I don't think so.
I almost said it. If we were talking about. I was going to say if we were talking about wolf-headed women, that like there's some vampire myth that connects wolves and vampires together, but that's Molag Bal, not Bevran's Dagon.
So wait, Molag Bal was king of the dregs. That's a very good pronunciation. I do like the dregs.
That's how they do it in ESO. But you know that if you played it.
No, but remember, Mehrunes Dagon is the Demon Leaper King from previous Kalpas. So maybe that's the connection there that we have to look at. That's how Molag Bal throwing shade at like the former ruling king.
Yeah, it could be. The Holy One returned at last, Vec golden with wisdom. Head found its body had been tenderly used. He mentioned this to Molag Bal.
Look at this.
He mentioned this to Molag Bal, who told him that he should thank the Barons of Mood like this, for I have yet to learn how to refine my rapture. My love is accidentally shaped like a spear. Basically, Vivec's so frickin' rugged that Molag Bal didn't really. He didn't lay the pipe right. That's all. That's the only way to put it.
Either that, or that's weird because I mean this is possibly not something that was intended when the text was originally written. But if we take ESO's interpretation of the Barons, they are Lesser Daedra who are connected to Boethia because they're connected to Fanuit Hen and all the rest of it. So you've got so if he's taking instruction on how to behave with Vivec from Boethia, that puts or from something associated with Boethia, that kind of broadens Boethia's sphere a fair bit.
I think what it means is that he's saying is that Molag Bal is saying you should thank the Barons of Mood like this for the reason why I wasn't able to hit your head up against the bedposts because the Barons of Mood like this made you so tough and like and so on.
I saw that. I see that a little differently. That Molag Bal has been instructed by the Barons of Mood like this.
That's how I read it.
And how to avoid certain violence from his spear-shaped love.
Although on the flip side of it, why would he listen to them?
Which is as
That's
terrifying
where I'm coming
as
from.
it is.
Yeah.
As terrifying as that is, I love that metaphor. My love is accidentally shaped like a spear.
Well, I have a lot to say about that line.
Yeah, I like it.
Please do.
It's chock full of meaning.
Yeah, that's because it's not necessarily my love is accidentally shaped like a spear. The spear part is Molag Bal talking about how the shape of his love is shaped like a weapon, I think. It's kind of hard to disconnect spears from phalluses in Elder Scrolls lore because of memes and frankly my own sense of humor. It's just very hard to
and
like
certain Argonian maids.
And certain Argonian maids, yeah. And so but But I think in this particular, like, sort of like pre-meme era, 36 Lessons era, when this thing was written, the spear is supposed to be, obviously it's supposed to be phallic shaped, but its purpose as a weapon of war is the relevant, symbolism here. And so when Molag Bal talks about his love, what he's talking about is the what I like to call the capital L love, or I think it is. Molag Bal could legitimately be talking about the way he likes to get down. That could just be it. I mean, maybe bullets are his love language. I don't know.
I read it as affection.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit tricky when we're talking about Molag Bal, because I don't think Molag Bal knows what affection is.
Sure. Exactly. Which is why it's
Paul has bingo already.
Like it's
already.
Someone.
Wow.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Wow.
We're sloppy.
Yeah, look at that. ESO audio issues. Yeah, some real world theology and shit. Okay. All right. Good. Well, yeah, it's a fair cop.
I think it's someone who has, let's say for the sake of argument here, that we have someone who grew up in a loveless, abusive kind of world. That was their entire life. They grew up and they want to express affection towards someone. They may not know the name of it. They may not know how to engage in it, and so they rely on what they've been taught.
Right.
And that's abuse. And I'm not I'm not saying that people who have dealt with abuse in the past are therefore abusive. That's not what I'm
don't read too much into it
at all. Yeah. But I think that Molag Bal does perhaps genuinely have feelings for Vivec, but Molag Bal doesn't know how to communicate that. And I think it also plays with the idea that I have that duality is present in all of the Atata. And something I've said about Molag Bal is he dominates because it is his nature.
Right.
What's that old parable about the frog and the scorpion?
Yeah.
The frog, the scorpion wants to get across a stream, and the frog's like, well, I'll let you go, but you have to promise not to sting me. And he's like, yeah, sure, okay. And so he hops on the back of the frog and gets halfway across the stream, and the scorpion stings him. He's like, well, why'd you do that? It's like, oh, sorry, it's my nature. Like it's just it's how he does. The same way a wasp stings. It's just what happens. And because of that, Molag Bal is a slave to his nature.
The Daedra kind of are anyway, because they don't interact with anything else.
So because things like slavery and domination are associated with him, he can do nothing but dominate, enslave, rape, whatever that domination is at the moment. He cannot help but do that. And because of that, his love is accidentally shaped like a spear. I have an intent, but I can't operate outside of these parameters.
I'm kind of curious about the word accidentally, though.
That's the other thing I was going to bring up.
Because it's not the case of my love has to be shaped like a spear because I can act in no other way. It's that it's an accident. So what's the accident?
Right. What causes this accident? Is it some random scrambling that happens at the beginning of every Kalpa? Is it somebody else, like filling these roles as like a game of musical chairs, and somebody else got in the Mehran's Dagon chair, and so now he's like, I guess I'll take the creepy dominance chair, because it's either that or pestilence, and nobody wants to be Periite. What?
What if it's a potty training kind of thing? He had a little accident.
So to actually take this a little more seriously, which I know, fucking God forbid, especially for me. What if that's a direct relation to the nature of the Elder Scrolls universe, at least as it's understood at this point in time, with regards to reach heaven by violence? If all you can understand things is within the frame of violence, so hey, the quote unquote love intervention by Akavir is seen as, oh, that's an invasion, as opposed to, man, we care about you, man, come on, like, come back to us. If you see that as a violent invasion, if you see the only way of sinking Yokota was that it was itself a very violent time, and the only way they broke out was through violence. If everything is framed through a lens of violence, then my love is accidentally shaped like a spear starts to track really well with that frame of understanding.
Yeah, which brings us right back to Anu and Padme and Nia and all the rest of it.
Right.
So yeah.
It's all connected, folks.
I like my part.
About the bigger picture, man. Or in this case, Mare.
So Vivec, who had a grain of Iam's mercy, sent about to teach Molag Bal in the ways of belly magic, which is everyone's responsibility. If you're with somebody who's not getting down the way you like it done, you gotta, communicate, be calm and instructive.
Communication is key. Yeah.
They took out their spears and compared him. Somebody hit the wah pedal.
People who tell on themselves online about hey, I'm a disappointing partner in bed, and it's like, bro, this is like information you can never torture out of me if that was ever the case.
Man, everybody's got to be bad at everything at some point.
Unhealthy if this happens. I was like, bruh, bruh,
so their spears. Now we've really sort of hit like the peep meme era here. This is where the whole thing starts on spears. In the New Whirling School, I've got huge paragraphs written about Freud. If anybody here has any knowledge about Freud, you know what all this is about. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. That's true, but
paragraphs about Freud.
Big, earthy, veiny paragraphs about Freud.
Cigars,
Vivec bit new words onto the king of rape so that it might give more than ruin to the uninitiated. Okay, so biting in the 36 lessons is it's a metaphor, but it's confused on occasion, because sometimes it seems to mean like biting is when you steal something from someone. But in this case, Vivec's gifting it onto Molag Bal's spear. Yeah, like an imprint. So you could argue that Vivec is biting these words onto the king of rape, and the word bite is being used to say that Vivec is putting these words onto Molag Bal's spear in a way that is not that Molag Bal is not aware of. The fact that he is biting words onto Molag Bal's spear is also interesting. Why are words? It's like engraving runes or something similar. Huh?
He's influencing Molag Bal's protonymic.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that was what I was working towards. Thank you. Yes.
I mean, sorry. Sorry for shortcutting you.
I'm thinking of the metaphor between teeth and words.
Okay, sure. And mouths.
Biting, because, so perhaps just the simple imprint, that the teeth being used to indent is the language in and of itself, or something along those lines.
Yeah, because Molag Bal, as a creature of violence, will only understand violence, will only understand an imprint, a bite, something that is inherently damaging, so to speak.
And everyone's got different kinks, so
I mean, hey,
it's not mine, but
so it might give more than ruin to the uninitiated, as Andrew's kind of starting to puzzle over. I kind of see that as it's again allowing Molag Bal to be something more than just domination. It's Vivec is laying claim here to influencing the nature of the Daedra itself,
right?
Which is one heck of a claim.
Yeah, and also uninitiated, I think, might also have some connection to Vivec's concept of spies or people who are.
I think it's more simple than that. Okay. I think it's a simple matter of paying it forward. Everyone, I'm just gonna leave, silicon little tips on the barbs here for the next person, so that it's not going to be pleasant, but at least it won't be as difficult. They're uninitiated, they don't know what's coming to them, so I'm just going to soften the blow a little bit. That's how I read that.
Yeah, but how you do that to a Daedra is an interesting concept.
By biting them.
By writing words onto them.
It's Mr. Nimbus. He controls the police.
Well,
Come on.
I mean, like for me, like I don't know how accurate this is, and quite frankly, I don't think it's that accurate. But something that always comes to mind when relating to this phrase, because it lives in my head rent fucking free, is it relates to the Stacey and about like biting, and we ate it to become
we ate it to become it. Yeah.
So it's like, oh, hey, Vivec wants to, and that also tracks with what Sotha Sil says about Vivec wants to be all things, all peoples, all genders. It's like, you know,
it's what Boethia did to Trinamac.
Yes.
Like it tracks is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm trying to think whether there are any other sort of interactions between Vivec and the House of Troubles in that sense. Does he do? I mean, he's never as involved with Malakath and Sheogorath and
I mean, there's the
but,
part where Sheogorath threw the live rock.
Yes.
I mean, that's the only time they're ever. I think they ever.
Also, I always just kind of
which is actually explicitly disavowed in these sermons. Because
I just always kind of viewed the four corners of the House of Troubles as like partially relating to the whole, like, well, not all, but a great many indigenous cultures believe that bad spirits hide in corners. And so that for me was kind of like the four corners of the House of Troubles are testing you on your path to it. It's not that they work in unison, but they're all a variety of forces or gods or powers that will do their best to obstruct your way to, you know, enlightenment, to godhood. Sure, Sheogorath is the god of madness, and we all love him and the cheese memes. But at the same time, it's like it's a fundamentally mad proposition when you eventually, like, you know, in universe, right, come to realize Chip and be like, oh, I technically don't exist, but I do anyway. Like, that is a fundamentally mad concept. So that's like, in a way,
you just gotta apply some Descartes. It's fine.
They don't know who Descartes is.
Apply Descartes to wound.
But, you know, am I putting Descartes before the horse here?
There it is. I knew it was going to happen. It's like you could see that joke coming like a train in a tunnel. You know, you just can't get out of the way.
Like a horse-drawn carriage.
Anyway. That's just how I've always kind of viewed the four corners, as like they're not exactly a kind of cabal working together to be like, ooh, someone's on the path to godhood, time to mess with them, but more like, oh bitch, you think you know? Well, fucking prove it to me. This is my sphere. Can you beat it? Can you survive? Can you survive this anime gauntlet of increasing difficulty? Right? Like, that's basically the vibe I always got from it. And that's also kind of how I understand, just having like kind of reread the sermons recently as well, is when you're trying to build your provisional house and trying to understand all these concepts, all these other Daedra stand in opposition to you for a variety of reasons, because of like pride and like the hate that you might succeed where they failed. Others like Sheogorath, it's like, oh hey, yeah, you're about to learn some freaky shit, man. Are you gonna eventually come to my kingdom, or are you gonna somehow be able to skirt around that? I'm impressed to see how you do. With Molag Bal, it's about like domination, which in a way relates to like being a ruling king who sees in no other his equal, because you can't do that. So that's Molag Bal to a certain extent. There's other ways in which Molag Bal applies there, but Molag Bal could also just be like, yeah, okay, let me see if you actually understand this, and let me remind you of who the fuck I am, right? But he's not gonna go to Sheogorath and be like, hey, yo, Sheo, let's mess around with this, like, maybe soon to not be so mortal anymore. Like, you know, I don't believe in like this sort of shadowy cabal. It's more like, again, to use the Hinduism reference, various energies or powers that will either tempt you or will give you incredible difficulty in overcoming, but they must be overcome in order for you to reach this ultimate goal.
It's kind of like the entire Arbus is a cul-de-sac, and the princes live in the houses along the cul-de-sac. Everything happens in the center. That's where all the kids ride. That's where all the kids ride their bikes. Yeah, that's where all the kids ride their bikes. And sometimes one of them tries to be an adult, and they're like, you can't do that to those kids, or, you know, I'm the adult here. So I don't know. It got away from me.
Mephala is the MILF who sleeps with the milkman.
I was going like an Ed and Eddie kind of route. Is where I was going.
All right. So, okay. So, this has since become
1950s style like sitcom, and it's called Meet the Daedra, and it's just like they're all in their 50s clothes.
Chugor's the wacky neighbor.
Jiglag works.
He's always got his smoking jacket on. You know.
You know what? Actually, that'd be really good. I'd watch that. If it's done right, I'd watch it.
This has since become a forbidden ritual, so though people still practice it in secret. This is, I mean, I suggest this is actually what we're talking about here is oral sex. And the reason why it's forbidden is because it's an interesting idea that the Dunmer would forbid certain types of intercourse, I think. Especially considering that they have a reputation for being wild in the sack. And it also says a lot about a culture that they would repress sexual act.
It also, if you're talking about the general process of interacting with Baal then I kind of read it as well as all of the oral sex stuff. I kind of read it as the kind of you can't go along this path to do what Vivec did. That as much as the original culture of the good Daedra and so on were trying to produce something that allowed people to come to godhood or an understanding of the Arabis or whatever was the original goal of the endeavor. The tribunal explicitly stopped people from doing that. They calcified the culture, so you couldn't follow in Vivec's footsteps.
And to a certain degree, it could be about literally changing, mimics or casting magic or so on by biting, phalluses, because the next paragraph is literally says, here is why.
Yep.
The Valathian demons and monsters that were watching all took out their own spears. There was much biting, and the earth became wet. And this was the last laugh of Molag Bal. Watch as the earth shall crack, heavy with so much power that should have been forever unalike. Okay.
It just sounds that just sounds like Riemann in the midst of battle. Yeah.
Well, it's the same author.
It tracks. But it's
Let me just make a whole bunch of weird shit that people years in the future are still gonna be talking about.
But it's also something that the idea of powers that should have been forever unalike. It's also a combination of mortal and Daedra, or something like that. It's not exactly Aedra and Daedra commingling, but it's that idea of the Daedra combining with something else, and
he's got the lube.
Oh no! I'm just mixing up my watered down PVA glue. Don't mind me.
Oh God.
Yeah, for those of you only seeing the audio in the future, this is. This is
Andrew
missing,
with a bottle.
You're missing additional context.
That's why you gotta watch it, folks.
And be grateful for that.
Yeah. It's also about, like, one of the things I mentioned in the New Whirling School here is that there's a is it Mesopotamian mythology? I think we have two of the most dramatic opposites, considering they were a agricultural society, was the idea of rain and soil. Which in Mesopotamian mythology they equated to a semen and a womb. Of rain falls on the ground and produces life in the form of plants, in the same way that semen produces life in a womb. And these are I don't know, that doesn't really hold up with the forever unalike thing, because that's kind of the whole point of life. But I think that it stuck out to me. I couldn't get it out of my head, so I think I mentioned it in the commentaries.
I just kind of interpreted the whole forever unalike comment as again, and maybe it's just at the time and my own more limited thinking. I just viewed that as, again, kind of like the knowledge of like the higher power, whether you want to see that as understanding the wheel, Jim, some form of a walking way. That was kind of forever unalike, less so about a merger of things and more like oh, you finally understand the inherent contradictions of this world that you live in. That was always how I kind of interpreted that sign, given that, like, Vivec is doing that with Molag Bal, and then everyone else took their spears out and copied them. And so it's like, behold, look at all of a sudden all this quote unquote knowledge and wisdom and higher powers that have resulted from this. That's like
people being irresponsible.
That was kind of like one of my earliest understandings of it.
So then that stretch of Badlands that had been the site of the marriage fragmented through fire, and a race that is no more, but that was terrible at the time to behold came forth. Born of the biters, that is all they did, and they ran amok across the lands of Veloth and even to the shores of Red Mountain. We don't really get to find out a whole lot about these people.
No.
Because Vivec kills him in the next paragraph. But Vivec made of his spear a more terrible thing. Muatra. From a secret he had bitten off of the King of Rape, and so he sent Molag Bal tumbling into the crack of the biters and swore forever that he would not deem the king beautiful ever again. Vivec wept as he slew all those around him with his terrible new spear. He named it Muatra, which is milk taker, and even the chimeri mystics knew his fury. So everybody, including the chimer who were in the area, got annihilated at this point.
Yes.
And
Dick 2 bomb.
Yeah. I also find it worth pointing out that Muatra is the name of the spear at this point. It's not that Vivec did not have a spear beforehand. It's just that it has been
He's named it then.
Yeah. It did not become Muatra until he added the secret from the King of Rape onto his own spear.
Which is less a secret and more an experience, frankly.
But it's still interesting that Vivec says that I think he stole it, right?
I'm not sure.
Stolen from the King of Rape.
The thief. What up?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still not sure about that, just because the anagram of it. Sponsored by.
Yeah, not anymore.
But the idea of the anagram of Muatra for that kind of hints at something else going on. That I mean, this is the 36 lessons. We're never getting told the whole truth. And so the idea that it is the idea that the result that everything that Muatra is the result of trauma is something else. So whether it's a secret that was bitten away or just the secret being the experience in and of itself.
We mentioned the anagram, right? Did you bring up the anagram?
Just did.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
Good.
Muatra's, to be explicit, Muatra's an anagram of trauma.
Right.
Yes.
So Milk Taker is also interesting because it's one thing that we often have to point out to people is that Muatra is not actually a penis. It's both of Vivec's genital. It's
and I think
it's
we went
lingam.
over this. Yeah. We went one time and looked. It was during one of the Vivec casts, and we talked about what'd you say it was called, Felix?
The linga or the lingam.
Yeah.
It's the hybrid representation of
it's like an incense burner kind of thing. Is that what it is?
It can look a little like that.
It can be, but basically, like it's a large stone phallus that represents Shiva's dick, and then the other bottom half represents Parvati's
kind of
vagina. But really, what it represents is masculine and feminine energy, and thus the two together represent the sum totality energy of all creation, which is why it's like about the waters of Atman. It's all just, bodily fluids from cosmic sex. And so, it really isn't. I'm like, if Hindus ever find this cast, I'm very much forbidden from ever going back to India. But the core understanding is that, like, you usually do ceremonial offerings on top of the linga of water or preferably milk, and you pour it over, and it's a whole bunch of symbolism, which I'm hoping I don't have to be explicit about.
I think we get it.
Yeah. Okay. Especially with what's considered on the base, you just kind of view it like, imagine you're on the inside, you got like that internal camera, that's kind of what you're seeing. There you go. You're hopefully kind of understanding some of what's there in the symbolism and like of unions and energy and birth and creation, and it's all just the same cyclical stuff. So yeah.
This is also relevant to that, I think. Anyone struck by Vivec at this time turned barren and withered into bone shapes.
Ooh,
that's what Milk Taker is
right.
doing, is it's extracting essence.
Yes.
You know?
And it's also the idea. It's also kind of the idea of it being both genitals at once. The name kind of says that, because if you think about it just being Vivec waving his penis around, it's not that, because penises don't take the milk.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some very fascinating drawings on DeviantArt back in the day.
Docking is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, sounding.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a thing. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I need another sip of beer because, of course we're going here today.
So, the path of bones became a sentence for the stars to read, and the heavens have never known children since. That's very lovely. The path of bones became a sentence for the stars to read. I don't know what that sentence is.
As in, like, how to interpret it?
Yeah, I don't know what it would like. And the heavens have never known children since. I don't know if this is. It sounds like part of me is kind of just like, this is just hyperbolic. Like,
is it Vivec stealing some sort of credit for Redguard-esque cosmology?
Okay, maybe.
It reminds me of soothsaying, like finger bones. You
Oh,
cast
yeah,
the finger bones, and then
and
then you divine meaning from them. So I mean, if I think about reading bones that way, so the path of bones became a sentence for the stars to read. So maybe the Magna Ge are the ones who can read them. The heavens have never known children since. I think that maybe ties into Lig. I mean, is this related to the Chrome device? You know, I mean, because when the Chrome device showed, as I understand, when the Chrome device showed up, the different signs of Magna Ge, the C sign, the M sign, the Y sign, and the blend sign, I think, is all of them.
Or is the blend a sign in itself? I thought the blend.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I thinking about the blur as opposed to the blend?
Yeah.
Let's look it up.
The Y blur is an event.
Yes, and the Y blurred with the C. I think, which is creation of the color green, because that's CMYK for those of you who are unfamiliar. In the
God, this is a long piece of text.
Yeah, there's a text called the Magna Ge Pantheon. You can find it on the Imperial Library, and it divides up kind of different houses or some such of the Magna Ge, and it only names like notable ones. There are more, and these are not all of them. But it kind of reads similar to kind of a Silmarillion-ish.
Yeah, it does.
Sort of
it
vibe.
does.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it reads like. Yeah, it's like a bunch of like a quarter page report.
And it's also a printer accident. But
yeah, because the CMYK, K being the blend sign here, those are the colors for toner and laser-based ink. Printers. I worked in a copy shop for a long time, and this is the main thing. I
worked pre-press. You guys in copy shops, man. I don't know. That's a rough job.
It was kind of fun.
We just hand off our bullshit to you guys, and then you make it good.
So I mean, having to replace different colors of toner, CMYK, that's just the color scheme for that. Whereas
cyan, yellow, magenta, black.
Exactly. Yes. And then, compared to like screen technology, which is RGB usually.
Almost always, isn't it?
Almost always. There is one. I want to say it was a Samsung TV. I remember a commercial with George Takei. He was talking about how they added Y. They added yellow.
They added yellow. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
And all I remember, like, I made memes of George Takei going, "Oh my." it was him with a screen, and I kept photoshopping things onto the screen.
My understanding was red was the hardest thing to reproduce optically, but maybe that's no. It's ink. It's ink that it's really hard to reproduce.
Yellow light. So what's the fucking point?
I don't know. I don't question the engineers at Samsung.
Is that for goldfish? Because I know goldfish can see yellow light. The goldfish could tell us what yellow actually looks like, but we don't have speech translations for whatever few thoughts are rattling around in goldfish brains.
We don't have a lot of time to go into, as much time as I would like to go into this, but television technology is basically a numbers game. It's all about marketing wise. It's all about, do we have a bigger number than the competition? Because nobody really, if anybody actually sat down and objectively thought about televisions, they'd figure out that spending more than two grand on a televition is ridiculous and unnecessary.
It was. I mean, there might have been both. It was definitely George Takei. I made memes of it. I
forget a lot of shit, but I don't forget my memes. Yeah.
George Takei,
instead of knowledge of like people's phone numbers, that's now meme bank storage. Right?
Here we go. Okay, no, it was Sharp. It was not Samsung. It was Sharp. Here,
Gen Watanabe might have been Samsung.
I will drop this for your viewing pleasure.
Just so you guys know how completely right he is.
It's the Sharp Quatron. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Quatron. Oh God, they were like, it's got 4 colors. That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I'm gonna watch this.
The only reason that I think capitalism may never die is because marketing relies on it too much, and people don't understand marketing and advertising enough to recognize that it's going to oppose any meaningful challenge to its power and influence.
Nobody understands marketing, and nobody in marketing understands marketing.
So many ways.
No. I spend a lot of time talking to marketing people in my job, way more than I would like to, and when I refer to like marketing and SEO as a dark art, I'm not saying that it's like insidious. I'm saying that nobody understands the shit, even the people who do it, you know. And when it doesn't work, they don't have a good reason. But because you spend so much money on them, they feel obligated to tell you, and it terrifies them when you actually have to ask them to explain why and how something worked, good or didn't work. It's absolutely frightening to them. What they want you to do is to hand them money, and they go into a dark room, and then your numbers go up, and you never find out why. You know?
Yeah, no, that was a friend of mine said that she went into a career in marketing because she liked the kind of the design aspect and the reaching out to people and all this, that, and the other. But she got into the career, and it's just yes, you do what the program tells you, and the numbers go up. You do what the program says to make the numbers go up, and the numbers go up. That's all it is.
It's a lot of imposter syndrome. It's a lot of
and
it's functionally magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in marketing, you are a slave to the algorithm.
Well, the problem is that marketing is just now starting to come around to something that neuroscience has figured out a long time ago. Like I said, I'm going to stop talking about this in a second, which is that people are insane, and you can't steer people like you steer numbers or robots or something, because people don't make any sense, and they are very aware of when they're being manipulated. They don't appreciate it. And secondly, when they do make decisions, those decisions are influenced by so many different factors that it basically resembles complete insanity.
It's a form of chaos theory.
I can add to this, but I shouldn't.
I'll put a bow on it by telling you a story about how I bought my last laptop. Okay, I think I've talked about this on this channel before. It was like a $3,800 gaming laptop. It was ridiculously expensive. And I bought it because I was looking for laptops that had like a 3000 series RTX card in it, or 2000 series RTX card in it. And I was like, I just wanted something that could do RTX. And I was looking at a bunch of different laptops, and it was down to about like 3 or 4, and I was doing it right. I was doing my research, and I was reading reviews and all that kind of shit. And there's about 3 or 4 of them down. And I was looking at the laptop that I ended up buying, and the thing that made me add it to cart was I was sitting there and I was thinking, I wonder how thin that thing actually feels when you fold it up. Like when you pick, is it going to be like picking up like a platter, like a tray that you would serve food on? Is it going to be that thin, or is it like does it snap shut? I wonder. And then I bought it. That's why I bought it. because I was curious. That's the stupidest fucking reason to spend $3,800 you've ever heard of.
Yeah, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's really fucking dumb.
I bought a $75 pillow the other day.
Well, in fairness, if you are going to spend the $3,800 anyway, and it's a question of which $3,800, that's as good a reason as any.
No, the price ranges were pretty varying. It was the most expensive laptop, is what it was. And so yeah, and it was the dumbest damn thing. And afterwards, when I thought about it, I was like, I had good reasons to buy the laptop. But the reason that I bought the laptop was not any of those reasons. It was I wanted to see what it was like when I folded it up, like what it felt like in my hands. That's the reason why I bought that laptop. Now think about
I don't even care about just because I want to support a local artist or something.
Right. Okay, but then think about that from the perspective of the laptop manufacturer's marketing department. If you gave them that data, how does that help them? In no way does that help them. They can't possibly market to a person who makes that kind of dumbass decision, and because of that kind of insanity. And that's the reason why marketing people have it so bad, and it's why they're kind of like struggling in their lives. Because I've never met a marketing person who wasn't stressed, and it's because they are. Eventually, especially as neuroscience is starting, behavioral sciences are starting to sort of like permeate the public consciousness, they're starting to realize that people are absolutely fucking bonkers. And there's the only way that you can actually influence something in marketing is to just saturate just a lot to the everything, the U.S. military munitions policy, a lot to the everything. And then, so yeah, anyway, that's okay. I'm sorry if that's my giant Hydra alien just showed up for me, completely fucking derailing this whole cast.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the 36 lessons.
Well, actually, I do want to talk about it a little bit, because that sentence about resembled bones that sent a message to the stars in the heavens have never known children since. There's a lot of ways to interpret that, some of which we've interpreted. I just want to go over a few more. So for starters, it could be a reference, like not so much a reference, but trying to get people to understand again how the heavens were first created, which is the earth bones that give up their life and their essence to form Mundus. And then it's like, nope, that's it. Like no more fleeing to the stars, no more spirits bypassing the cycle, at least for a while, because now they're trapped on the skin ball. There's that kind of greater metaphysics interpretation. Another way of interpreting it is with the idea that there's, and like I wish I had known this beforehand, but doesn't someone, I forget if it's like Mankar Cameron or like someone somewhere says something about like sending a message to the gods or the heavens in some capacity based on like their actions. And so that could also be like, the bone sent ascended. So it's kind of like a warning of like, this fate befalls you if you interfere with my attempt or something like that.
Sounds like a Tiber septum thing.
Right, which is why I'm like, I feel like, like I remember reading it in some book. Don't ask me which one because I don't fucking remember. But like someone somewhere in like one of those dope moments of lore basically said something about like sending a message to the heavens or like to the stars or like a message to the gods through action or something like that. Basically a weird play on actions speak louder than words, but it's still a form of communication.
Yeah. Or in the example of Vivec leaving a trail of bones behind her as the cuts through all these people
where my horse is trotting, no grass grows. So like again, there's like multiple other ways of interpreting that. Again, not gonna say like that there's one that's the ultimate correct one, but just that there are actually various ways of interpreting what it might potentially be. I see Chris being like,
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the thing is, I kind of vaguely remember something similar to what you're talking about, but my memory is sort of like crunching it into like a myth that I was reading in some other book, not Elder Scrolls related.
Oh, I know. It was something
me...
Riemann said in the Riemann novel.
I can't think that it's something that's tied to Tiber because we have so little of his actual wording outside of the real Baron Zaya.
And, my memory's so jumbled. I think it came from Berserk, and I've never read or seen Berserk, so I don't.
Okay.
But Andrew, read Berserk. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I.
Oh, it's good.
Fine, I'll add it to my reading.
I take the stick out of it. Okay, I will read it as soon as Felix plays the.
Well, read it as soon as the. Read it as soon as the new authors, I think the new artists and authors are done writing it, because I think they're wrapping up the series right now. It's just taking them a while because they're trying to get the tone right. So I don't know if they've actually finished it or not. I can't remember. I think I heard somewhere about that. And also in manga news, I read the first arc of Chainsaw Man, and it's good and weird.
What a name, Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
Kind of
I would recommend parts of it. Yeah.
Man, One Punch Man.
One Punch Man's great. Fucking great.
I love all the subversion there. It's so great.
Rockman is an old one. I don't remember Rockman.
No,
that's Mega Man.
Yeah, it's Mega Man.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't care about Mega Man.
Neither do I. I just know that's the name in Japanese.
Anyway, Vivec.
Vivec hunted down the biters.
What are we here for?
Vivec hunted down the biters one by one and all their progeny and killed them all by means of the 9 apertures, and the wise still hide theirs for Muatra. So the 9 apertures. Shall we count?
How many buttholes is that?
There's pretty sure last time I did this, I came up with 9.
9. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
2, 4, 5,
5, 6,
7.
Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking actual
talking
holes,
about,
but I'm sure I remember hearing some, and that also will vary.
10.
Yeah.
That also, yes.
So, yeah, that's what I was.
Well done, Felix.
I paid attention in biology class.
Yeah.
So now, let's see, how does
it also depends on quite how far you count nipples and belly buttons as
right. Yeah. It's kind of it's very hand wavy.
Pores.
Yeah.
Skin pores are the tightest orifice.
Well, okay. Well,
okay.
That's also but what I prefer to think about the 9 apertures is this idea, an undeveloped idea that Kirkbride had in the Elder Scrolls, that there were like pressure points or chakras or the equivalent for the Elder Scrolls that he sort of invented when he was talking about the 9 apertures, but he never really fully developed and explained exactly what they were, and it just didn't get anywhere. That's kind of the way I prefer to think about it. Thinking about it as just like how many holes does a human have is just kind of like, I mean, that's broad. I mean, a lot. you know, I mean,
because it also, it also
tear
kind of
ducts.
leans.
I mean,
in,
it's
It also leans into
back
that.
of the knees.
Yeah.
It also leans into that perspective for anatomy because of how Lyrock gets talked about. Because Lyrock comes from one of Vivec's apertures.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
So, I find it very difficult to come up with another interpretation of that.
That's a good point. Yeah. So one of the things,
which aperture, given that we also call it Poo Rock.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know which one.
Yeah.
So this actually, we kind of wrapped up this
sermon
a little quicker than I thought.
Serious.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
We may be
literally
casual.
in the case of Lyrock.
Yes.
We may be casual, but we are professionals.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a casual.
No, we're not
professionally
we may be
casual,
but we are obsessed.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
We volunteer our time.
Speaking of
doesn't Taoism have
and make
7 apertures?
Jokes.
Oh,
I feel like actual neurologists
Torter might be onto something.
Sorry?
Torter might be onto something. Taoism has 7 apertures.
7 apertures that correspond to the 7 physical souls alongside 3 mental souls.
I don't know jack shit about Taoism.
I know a little bit about this. I know a very, very tiny bit about this. Just a tiny little bit.
Please share your tiny bit.
No, it is not. No, that is a great way to embarrass myself. Okay, yeah. So there's a number of models of how the body and the soul works in Taoism. Two eyes. This is how the Taoists count them: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nose, 1 mouth. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nose, 1 mouth.
Okay, so it's all the face.
It's all the head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we don't talk about anything below the belt. That's
There's a different way of counting in Vivec's mind then, because Lyrock is born of Vivec's 2nd aperture, so that gives you an idea of where the number 1 is counting from.
Yeah.
What's the number 1 aperture?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yep. That's a good point. Yeah. That's really interesting, Jordan. I'm gonna.
Are you a 1st aperture counting guy?
Yeah. You too. He gets his knowledge. He knows this stuff the same way I know about this stuff from reading wuxia novels. Yeah, or xianxia novels. Yeah, it's exactly this. Yeah, exactly where I got it from. God, that's fucking funny. Yeah. So that's sermon 14.
Do we have to examine?
We're not finished yet, are we?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all of it.
Oh yes, yes we are.
The ending of the words is Almsavy. That's
ending of the words, baby.
That's it.
And it's
geez, what a way to end it, right? It's like, hey, here's this stuff, and then the pomegranate banquet, and then brutal murder with like, basically
slaughtering of children,
weaponized like sex weapons. And then
Vivec killing her children.
Doesn't sit well with me.
Possible, of course it doesn't sit well with you. Possibly related to the artwork on the door of the Dark Brotherhood and the and Mephala murdering her children.
Yeah. Oh. Wait, no.
Now to OnlyFans for this.
Yes, this is the most appropriate time to launch the Selectives OnlyFans.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be. Unfortunately, no.
So we'll have to do a dramatic reenactment of Sermon 14.
Yeah, and just as another thing to fill out, because just looking into the whole aperture stuff for what happens later on in the sermons, I've been looking into Vivec's 2nd aperture. Make of that what you will.
Oh God!
You just say you have to poop.
And Lyrock was apparently at the pomegranate banquet but escaped.
Yes.
So I don't is Lyrock counted amongst one of the children that Vivec slays later on in the sermons? I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
So there's potentially more escapees from the pomegranate banquet.
No. Escapoos.
God Almighty. Sermon 15 is the Charmet's poem. And there's all kinds of dank for that, so make sure you guys tune into that, because that's going to be really good.
We should get Ty for that one. Ty Crow.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
All right.
He hasn't been on in ages.
Yeah. If you can get hold of him, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still knocking around.
He's a wee busy university buddy.
But he's done a
university boy.
Done a lot with that.
Speaking of busy people at university, the new Young Scrolls album just dropped.
Nice.
Ooh.
Check that shit out on YouTube. You know where I'm going after this.
Okay.
And
that's the secret after stream party.
That's the after stream party right there. That's where the bumping music's at. So yeah, 2 weeks, and we will catch you guys for lesson 15. Everybody, wave goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm waving, I promise.
Mm.